So this is tian shui mian, literally translated sweet water noodles. We'll get to that in a sec. And at first glance, they might be sort of an unassuming member of the greater pantheon of Sichuan spicy noodles. Taste-wise, it's got a lot of the usual suspects, and culture-wise, it's just as snacky as many of its co-divinities. So probably the most obvious difference here is that tian shui mian features this absolute unit of a noodle. In the grand scheme of things, it also actually seems to be one of the earlier entrants in its category, even mentioned all the way back in 1910 in the BG of writer Fu Chongju, where he reported, in Chengdu, tian shui mian are sold in the morning at some restaurants, 16 wen for one bowl. The noodles are too thick and have no taste. So, not really selling the dish here. But in fairness, I do think that everyone in the world could probably be divided into one of two different groups. That is, thin noodle lovers and thick noodle lovers. Whether it's soman versus udon, capellini versus peachy, I think everybody's got a side push comes to shove. Fu Chongju was obviously in the former camp, but this dish is squarely for those that enjoy their noodles thick. No, specifically, the type of noodle that's being employed here is one called gungun mian or stick noodle, and it's actually one of the easier noodles to make, all things considered. To do so, to 200 grams of flour, preferably a Chinese high gluten one or an Italian 00, though bread flour would be okay in a pinch. Mix in 4 grams or 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, drizzling 100 milliliters of water in bit by bit. You should be looking at something that looks like a pretty dry, shaggy dough. So then just muster up all the force you can to really press together all those bits into a ball, and then take it out and knead it for a couple minutes at first. Then just toss it in a bowl and let it rest for 15 minutes. Then, after that time, swing back, knead it for 1 or 2 minutes, then fold the dough in half and then smush and flatten. Once you've got something basically like this, fold it again, then smush and flatten again. The purpose here is, of course, to develop the gluten. But the reason for this motion is that it's a lot easier than kneading for this sort of tougher noodle dough. And quick note that if you happen to own a pasta maker, you can also do the same move by folding and pressing through said pasta maker. Just do this 6 or 7 times in all, and then let it relax again for 15 minutes. Then 15 minutes later, just repeat that whole thing again. And then after all that, your dough should be basically ready. Just let it relax for a final 15. Now then, to cut your noodles then, first just give everything a good dusting, and then roll it out into a long sheet that's about a ½ centimeter thick. Then, using a long stick or preferably a ruler for guidance, cut your sheet into ½ centimeter wide strips to get sticks. As you work, give your sticks an ever so gentle shake and pull to loosen things up. And then once you've cut through all your noodles, these are good to boil. So, to a pot of bubbling water, toss in your noodles bit by bit to avoid stickage. And once they're all in, give it a jiggle so that they don't clump. No, these are fresh noodles, but they are pretty thick. So once everything comes up to a boil, toss in 1 cup of cool water, just like you were boiling homemade dumplings. But unlike dumplings, once that comes up to a boil just once again, they will be ready to remove. So just transfer it over to a big bowl, toss in a tablespoon of oil, and after a good jiggle, these are good to go. Of course, all that said, definitely know that if you're feeling lazy, any thick noodle that you've got around should be able to do the job here. Thick Shanghai noodles, fresh udon, the aforementioned peachy. If you're not up for this sort of small project, just use what makes sense for you locally. Either way, to dress it then, this all does rely on that titular sweet water, that is, tian shui. There's nothing too complicated about it. At its core, what it is just a seasoned soy sauce, just like we talked about in our last What is Brown Sauce video. In a Sichuan context, all this is a soy sauce that's mixed with spices and slab sugar, thus the sweet, and reduced down till thick. The soy sauce itself doesn't have too many demands on the sourcing front. Just try to use a Chinese soy sauce instead of a Japanese one, which tend to be thinner and lighter. So then, to make it, to a pot, first just toss in 100 grams of soy sauce, 25 grams of slab sugar, jaggery or dark brown sugar, 1 star anise, 2 pieces of sand ginger, a half a cinnamon stick, and 1 caoguo Chinese black cardamom cut open. And we'll toss a couple potential subs up here up on the screen. Then, over a low flame, start to heat things up and dissolve in that sugar. And once that's all incorporated in, cover and let it slowly simmer over the lowest flame your stove will go for about 15 minutes or so. It'll be done once you can start to see the sauce forming big bubbles, a bit like this, and everything's reached about spoon coating consistency. Then heat off, scrape the sides to get every last caramelized drop, and then transfer over to a bowl. And then with that, now you've got yourself some tian shui. Now, that will be one of the core components here. The other 2 fundamentals being some garlic water, made by crushing then pounding 6 or 7 cloves and mixing with 3 tablespoons cool water, tied together, obviously, with some hongyou, that is, Sichuan chili oil. Now, definitely feel free to use your favorite Sichuan chili oil recipe here. We've got an old one that we kind of want to redo, so I'll link a recipe from the esteemed Wang Gang in the meantime. But just in case you don't happen to have a big jar on hand, today let's whip up something quick and dirty that can do the job for those that are a little lazy in the room. So for color and fragrance, we'll use 2 tablespoons of a red fragrant chili powder as a base. This was Shanxi Qingjiao, but Kashmiri or gochugaru would also work great. Then we'll just heat up a 1/4 cup of oil up until faint wisps of smoke are starting to form around the wok, about 190 Celsius, and then move that over. Mix it well, but then to compensate for some of that missing hongyou depth, we'll then mix that with another 1/4 cup of laogama chili crisp. And while this isn't hongyou, I do promise that this will work for this specific dish at least. So, with all that sorted, now to make a tian shui mian, to 1 small snack-sized bowl, first toss in 100 grams of your thick noodles, half tablespoon of the Sweetwater soy sauce, another half tablespoon of the crushed garlic/garlic water, 2 teaspoons crushed toasted peanuts, a 1/4 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil, a pinch of granulated sugar and MSG, and a 1/4 teaspoon Sichuan peppercorn powder. Mix well, and fair warning, this will get a little sloppy, and then devour.
So as always, there's some variations on the toppings. So some places will add sesame paste in with the noodle. Some places will add some yacai Sichuan fermented mustard greens. But the core ingredients are the ones that we presented here in the video today, except maybe huajiao, which is also optional and a regional variation. Right, so check out the recipe in the description box. A big thank you for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon, and of course, subscribe for more Chinese cooking videos.